Willkommen zu After Dark. This episode will be discussing the Doppler family, particularly Peter. And if you have any questions or theories, please leave a comment and let us know. And also let us know how we're doing on our German for our German listeners.
Okay, so the Doppler family. Man, they we thought that like Ulrich's family was messed up, but I think it's safe to say that Peter and Charlotte's family is way more messed up. They made it a point to show just how screwed up their marriage is, like in that first scene when they're not sleeping in the same room. They come out into the hallway and it's not like they're even happy to see one another. They're basically just like roommates. It's like, oh yeah.
That's exactly what Francisca? Am I saying her name right? Francesca?
I think it's Francisca.
Francisca.
I think it's Francisca.
That's exactly what she says to Magnus. That so basically her parents are so terrible that she wants to run away from home forever, and is doing shady things to get money in order to make that happen, to get out of Vinden. Vinden.
Yeah, so it turns out she's most likely she's a prostitute. It looks like Magnus follows her through the forest and finds her looking around anxiously to make sure nobody's looking, and then she goes underneath the train track and takes out this whole crap ton of money,
which I feel like is extreme and kind of dumb. Like, she could easily have that money in her house. I don't feel like her mom or her dad are like obsessively going through her things or in her room. I would feel more comfortable keeping my money at home than, at the train tracks in the woods where anybody could attack me or worse and take said money.
I don't know. I mean, like, her mom's a cop and her dad,
yeah, but they don't suspect she's doing anything.
Maybe not. I don't know. Hell, we haven't really seen them interact very much.
I keep that money in my school locker with the lock on it before I put it, buried it outside in the woods. Like, it's just such a weird place. I don't know.
So this episode's really interesting because I found it quite clever what they did with just even the title. So the title is I think it's Doppelleben. I'm not sure if that's correct, but basically it means double lives in German. And Peter's last name is Doppler, so it's like Peter Double essentially. And then this entire episode is about all the different things that he can't tell people because he's living a double life. Like, the first big one is that obviously he's gay. And so there's this like hilarious scene where Charlotte goes to
I thought that was a painful scene to watch. Like,
man, it's so I just
like, that prostitute didn't have to say those things.
Dude, she was so mean to Charlotte. She knew that she had like nothing on her and that she wasn't gonna get arrested. And she just decided to be a total bitch.
Oh, I never forget the dick.
I love the fact that she had a welcome sign in her window. Trailer. It's just so egregious. Like, she's just asking for the cops to walk up. That was a hilarious scene to me. And, she basically says, like, yeah, I haven't seen Peter in over a year, and, he's probably getting it from somebody else now. So that's, like, the first thing that is his double life, obviously. But then, there's this other thing, which at this point in the show, episode 4, like, we don't know exactly what's going on, but it's clear that Peter knows something about the disappearance of these kids, because in the first episode, and Charlotte calls him out on this, the first episode, towards the end, he, like, randomly calls Charlotte, and he's, like, crying on the phone, and he asks as if he's about to say, like, he acts like he's about to say something, and then he just, like, doesn't for some reason. And he's like, oh, no, I'm fine, never mind, click. And she kind of, like, remembers, like, why did you not give me a reason for that? And, it turns out some of the red soil that was found on this unidentified child's body at this point shows up on Peter's car and on Peter's clothes and kind of inside the car and all this stuff. So it would seem to reason that he was probably like around or possibly involved in the crime scene in some way, which is very interesting because he seems like literally the last person on the show who would be capable of killing anyone, much less a small kid.
And then you have this other layer of Peter's father Helga, who's in the nursing home, and he's losing his mind, keeps running out in the woods every chance he gets. So that's adding like another level of strain to his relationship, obviously, with his wife. It's like, her police officers have to pick him up, and that's kind of like, it's almost like a babysitting kind of situation indirectly. And then their daughter goes missing temporarily.
Oof.
She was hanging out with some random dude. Smart. You would think she, being a police officer's daughter, she'd know better. I feel like her parents need to have a real talking to with her, because her comment about Mikkel was disturbing.
Oh, that was very disturbing.
If a child goes missing, well, I don't like him anyway. I hope he never comes back.
That was messed up.
That deserved wait a minute. You don't say things like that. What's wrong with you? Kind of conversation from your parent. Like,
yeah.
Especially your parent who's a cop. I thought it was very weird that she let that comment slide.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more problems going on there than I think we were even aware of. Like, that was a cold thing to say. That's something like sociopathic almost.
Yeah, I actually wonder about that little kid. Her name is
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. I mean, she did a couple things all in that episode that were very, problematic for me. I mean, the first thing was obviously that comment. It's just like not a normal comment to make at any age.
No.
And then she lied about like stealing her sister's lipstick, right? Which like at first doesn't really seem like that big of a deal, but then she's doing it in order to like impress a boy, and she's 8 years old, like putting on lipstick and try to impress a boy, and then she just wanders off, and then she thinks that's okay, but then she like doesn't see how it's not okay to like talk to a complete stranger in the woods who gives her a watch and says like, give this to your mom. I mean, she just seems like she has no concept whatsoever of what is normal and what's not. And
well, stealing your sister's lipstick, that's something annoying little sisters do. I have one of those, and they will tell both-faced lies right to you, like, I don't have your makeup. What did I do with that? And you know good and well that they do have it. So that's like a normal, annoying kid sister thing. But that comment about Mikkel was just like way out of line. And there's no way that, like, I couldn't see my mom letting something like that slide. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you saying right now? You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a
that wasn't cool. Yeah, that was
cold thing to say.
That was sociopathic for sure. What else? So, like, God, again to Peter. So I just feel so bad for this guy. Like, he's just nothing is working for him, like, at all. That scene with Helga in the beginning where he just like goes up to him, and he's sitting with him and holding his hand in the old folks home, and he's just like, Dad, you've got to stop doing this. You can't be just like wandering off in the middle of the night in your pajamas. And then, like, sure enough, at the end of the episode, he just like goes into Terminator mode and just like, you'd think after he'd done this like 5 times they'd put a lock on his door or something. Why is that shit still unlocked? He just opens it right up and goes out. He doesn't have to like go past security in the hallway or anything. He just leaves, and he never bothers to put on pants. He just goes in his pajamas. But that does bring up an interesting question, though, is why did he know exactly where to go when the crime scene was being investigated?
I thought he was just kind of wandering around and stumbled into them accidentally.
I don't think so.
Well, they were spread out looking for Elizabeth.
I know, but he when he was walking towards them, he kept saying to himself over and over, like, I need to make him stop. I can make him stop. Like, he knew exactly where he was going, and he had an intention behind it.
I feel like that was more coincidence. Like, they wouldn't have been out there if she wasn't missing, but she wasn't missing. She just took a long time to get home. You know what I mean? So I feel like that was more accidental.
What went on during that time that was missing?
Yeah, like, we never learned, like, okay, so she says, I was hanging out with someone named Noah. But you doing what? Like, she was gone a long freaking time.
Yeah, and then I also do not understand, I mean, we don't really know anything about this yet, but, like, the significance of the stopwatch, the pocket watch that he gave her to give to Charlotte. What's up with that? it for Charlotte, and he said it used to belong to her. Like, does that mean that this Noah is like an old friend of Charlotte's or something? Like, what's going on there? I don't understand how anybody could possibly know that unless they grew up with her. So, lots of questions, not very many answers. Peter like almost loses another kid essentially, and he still, when Charlotte called him and was like, where were you that night, blah, blah, blah. Every time we see him, like, even thinking about whatever it is that he knows or saw, he immediately starts crying. Like, it was like that in the second episode. It shows him just, like, sobbing in his car as he's listening to the radio story about it.
He clearly knows something about that kid.
He clearly knows something. I don't think that he could be involved.
Well, he had to have been there because, like, that red dirt was all up in his car, and he gets it, he's all sloppy about trying to get rid of it. Like, he gets it all on the outside of his car and on his pants.
He's like the worst criminal ever. He's absolutely the worst criminal ever, and it's just ironic because
he could just be like an accomplice. I don't think he's a criminal. He clearly doesn't have the stomach for it.
I don't understand why he would be even involved though, but anyway, it's just ironic because him as a therapist, he's supposed to be the guy that people go to get stuff off their chest, and here he is with like this horrible secret, whatever it is, that he has no one to talk to. Oh, the irony, poor Peter. Anything more about the Dopplers and that screwed up situation?
They're messed up from top to bottom.
They are definitely messed up from top to bottom. If you guys like our content, make sure to subscribe right here in the corner. Also, follow us on Instagram at RLRichonne, and also follow us on our blog at TheLivingRichonne.blog. Thank you guys so much for watching. Auf Wiedersehen.